Okay, rolling. Go on. Pop queen.
Please keep that in. You don't need to be a technical person at all. And that the beauty of AI is that all of these journeys are incredibly non-linear. So anyone from any field can get into this space.
How did you teach yourself? How are you self-taught in AI?
Very good question. And this is where I wish someone would have told me this exact pathway forward. AI is basically neuroscience, but in a tech format.
Give us the AI founder insights into some of the alternative platforms.
Perplexity. My favorite ever, because it gives you citations. You can ask it any question.
I remember you told me it's good for finding shopping discounts as well.
I love you. That is my life hack. I will give you a prompt for that.
When we had our initial conversation, we had this whole thing around like, should ChatGPT be your therapist?
Yes.
And the debate around that.
Another really random thing is learning how to Scottish reel dance.
That's something you can use ChatGPT for?
Yes.
What is that? Anna's going to have to put a video of that up on the screen because I have no idea what that is. What is your opinion on, is AI making people dumber?
It's almost calling for a reform of how we learn, of how we work.
Incredible. Ideja, I'm so happy to have you on. We're becoming Bossy together. Can you start by introducing yourself as if you're speaking to someone you've never met?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Mike. I'm honoured to be here. So I'm Ideja Bajra and I'm the founder of Edvance Ai, an AI consultancy essentially supporting a variety of businesses to really get AI adoption right. So we do this, of course, through our diagnostic framework, going into companies, scanning exactly where in the people side of things they maybe don't have AI integration effectively, and then developing a roadmap for them, creating a whole implementation strategy. And that's essentially what I do full time. Alongside that, I'm also an AI speaker. So I've spoken at TikTok and Salesforce. So privileged to be able to say that. And now, I'm honoured to be here to share all of the journeys behind my AI story.
I'm so excited because we're going to talk about all things AI and the future of work. And before we get started on the conversation, I'm not 100% sure that all the Bossy gals will be AI girlies. Maybe this conversation is going to convert them.
Okay.
But just to make it accessible, let's do some jargon first, just so people can follow along the conversation. So what are the words that you think that people should know to be involved in this?
Yeah, I think that's a very good starting point. So of course, AI stands for artificial intelligence, just the main one. An LLM is something I would refer to a lot when talking about all of these AI tools. So it's the actual model that will build upon the AI tools we use today. So it's called large language model, essentially. And I think NLP is another really important word. So natural language processing. It's exactly how these models operate, allows you to be able to talk to them because they will take the words that we put in and learn and can actually respond to us in that way. I think those are the main words that we use. I won't go super technical today. Anything else that does come up, I'll give you a little definition.
I can pop something on the screen as well.
Exactly.
Awesome. Let's talk about your AI origin story. So you studied cell biology. Let's talk about how you went from that and you got into AI and how AI is something that isn't just for the computer science techie people, but is something that everyone should know about.
Definitely. I think to preface this by saying, you don't need to be a technical person at all. And that the beauty of AI is that all of these journeys are incredibly non-linear. So anyone from any field can get into this space. And I'm very lucky that I've always had that natural curiosity. I'm also lucky that I have very supportive, parents, family, friends, etc., who will just say, do whatever you want. And that's kind of the thread I've picked up along the way. And so I obviously studied cell biology at University of St Andrews in Scotland. Best 4 years of my life. Happy to have graduated, but still loved the experience. And so, 2 years into my degree, I thought, I'm going to come out with a PhD. Like, this is my field. I love biotech. I'm such a passionate scientist. And then I started to notice that I didn't really enjoy the laboratory work. I needed the people element. So that was already factor number one that made me want to switch paths. And another kind of figment that came in was ChatGPT coming out during a biotech internship I did in the summer of 23 in Paris. Absolutely love Paris so much. And I was so privileged to go there to spend about 2 months with an incredible cancer diagnostic therapeutics team So cool. Very international as well. One of the co-founders was Swedish, and I met her very spontaneously through a Women in Tech Awards. And just off the back of that, I started to follow the threads of what do I really want to do with my life? Because it's quite daunting being in your third year of university and thinking, what is next? Even though we had 4 years, right? And then I ended up, doing that biotech internship. Absolutely loved everything I was doing, loved the team. But then I just saw a lot of the tasks I was doing were really easily automatable. And I was sort of working with AI at the same time anyways, playing around with ChatGPT, just following another curiosity, purely because one of my best friends at the time walked into my bedroom and was like, you need to try this tool right now. My older brother taught me about ChatGPT. Open it, try it. Your life is literally going to change. Didn't believe her until I started to play around with it. So I would say it's all a convergence of all of these three elements. And at the end, I realized that actually biotech really isn't the space I want to be in. I have a natural curiosity to be a generalist and pick up different things. And so that's kind of where the AI journey started, I want to say.
That's so cool. And I think with AI, there's so much opportunity for all of us to be generalists because the barriers to entry of learning about different information has changed so much. Like you can literally just type in a question and it will give you a very specific answer, and you can get different sources and use different models and learn about different things. But knowing where to start is quite a challenge. It can be intimidating. So how did you teach yourself? How are you self-taught in AI? And what is your curriculum for anyone who's listening who has no idea where to start, has never used any of the tools and is a little bit scared?
Very good question. And this is where I wish someone would have told me this exact pathway forward. So as I said, it was very natural, very curiosity driven. How I started was first actually going onto YouTube and typing, what is AI? So I learn best by kind of watching other people do it first, and then I have to do it immediately. Otherwise, I will never pick up the information. And we've definitely unpacked this a lot of times before. And so when it came to that, I watched every single video. I sort of started getting into a rabbit hole of, oh, whoa, AI is really similar to biology. AI is basically neuroscience, but in a tech format. And that's where my curiosity was piqued because I love connecting nodes together, right? And I started watching all the videos, and then eventually I would see book recommendations off the back of those videos. So then I would pick up the books of some, I guess, really famous AI figures, AI researchers, especially the more business-related books because I had no technical background at all. Then I would go onto AI and I would actually voice note ChatGPT at the time and say, can you please teach me how to use AI? So I literally just built a curriculum off the back of using ChatGPT. So that was my way in, I would say.
That's so fun. And if you later give me a list of some of your recommendations, we can put them in the description.
Absolutely.
For resources that people can try. ChatGPT is one that is quite well known. Give us the AI founder insights into some of the alternative platforms and what they're best used for so that people can go and play with new tools.
Yes. Oh, this is my favorite question, honestly. So Claude by Anthropic, they are absolutely incredible at writing. So the format that they produce is very similar to ChatGPT. I just prefer their sort of graphics. I prefer the text format, and it's a lot more eloquent because it's trained on more medical writing data, just the LLM, so the language model in the back end. ChatGPT is obviously great if you're using GPT-5, which you usually get with the free format. But I would say Gemini 3, so Google's tool that's literally just come out, I think 2 days ago, the video and photo image quality is absolutely insane. I was doing a whole test just for my friends and family to see, can you tell the difference between if this has been AI generated or not? And they couldn't. So try Gemini 3's, I think it's called Banana Nano Pro. That's their image generator. Those are the three tools. And then one that I love to use instead of Google search now is Perplexity. My favorite ever, because it gives you citations. You can ask it any question and it will say, these are your sources. This is the information. Click on these links. It's good for academia, good for if you just want to write anything pretty much. So
I remember you told me it's good for finding shopping discounts as well.
I love you. That is my life hack. I will give you a prompt for that.
Please put it in the description.
I will.
Prompting is the next thing because it is so important to ask the right questions. And actually, as a humanities person, I felt very alienated from AI when it first came out, because I was like, I'm not techie. I haven't done science since I was about 14. I am an essay person. I know how to do arguments and debates and like all this kind of stuff. But that is so important. And knowing how to write good prompts is becoming increasingly more essential when working with AI. So what is your advice around prompt engineering, and how can you make sure that what you input into these tools actually brings you stuff that is worth it?
Yeah, and I think actually you have an advantage. Everyone in humanities has a bigger advantage than anyone who is not technical, I would say, purely because you have the ability to write your thoughts eloquently. And the most important thing when using any of these tools is actually saying in detailed steps, how should we use this model and this tool? Because it's almost like speaking to someone for the first time. And if you're trying to tell them, okay, do this for me, they have no context, they have no role, they don't know what they're talking about or doing. So that I usually treat the AI models the exact same way pretty much, where I like to give them a role, a format, context, and then tell them, give it to me in these bullet points, or give it to me in this document, or give it to me in the format of a letter. So I always say, for example, you are, I don't know, like a chief marketing officer for a $500 million company. I need help with my copy, and here are all the details. Can you return it to me in this exact format and make sure you keep the standard really high? So I always do it in that format. So I always give the AI tools a role, because they can immediately assume the role of someone who would actually be there doing it. And another hack is actually voice note ChatGPT. Say, this is everything I need. Can you make a really strong prompt for me? Copy and paste the prompt into a different chat, and you're done. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Also with ChatGPT, there's so many different modes that people don't play around with. I don't know about them, and I literally have them on my computer. So you have like the deep research one. You have the Atlas one, which is really new. You have the agentic one. So how can you calibrate your tools so that they work better?
That's a really good question. So when you first open ChatGPT, what you will see is just the basic interface, depending on if you have paid or free. So I usually use a paid one just because of work. When I see the kind of modes, what I have at the top left-hand corner is the ability to choose the models. So these really dictate how your outputs come out, I would say. So many stories to tell you about how all of these models came about, but I'll tell you the basic ones first. So 5.1, GPT-5, is the most important one so far, because it's come out as a blend of the two previous models, so 4.0 and 5. 4.0 was the best model because it was really, really eloquent at writing. So it didn't jump, it didn't stop, it didn't really think either. It was just, here is your answer. And then, of course, ChatGPT or OpenAI decided to actually change the model to make it more, I don't know, let's say more alive. So it interacts a lot better with people. But it came under fire quite a bit, 5.0, purely because it was just jumping between reasoning levels. So it was 1 minute acting like a PhD researcher, and the other minute it was talking as if it was your best friend. And people were so confused because the output was never consistent. So then 5.1 came out, and that is the main one that we use. So I'd recommend start with 5.1 as the basic tool, and then you can go back and see what they call the legacy models. So you can scroll through and see what all of the other ones are. And then on the sort of bottom bar, you have obviously the ability to voice note it, or you have the ability to turn it into a voice chat. So you can literally click on the voice and you can actually hear it chat back to you, which is, I think, pretty cool.
I use it to practice languages.
That's what I was going to... Yes, that's the best way. Just design a whole curriculum to like learn French or something, and then you can chat with it. Definitely.
Yeah, no excuse of being embarrassed anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so eloquent back as well. Yeah. It's almost like a real person.
You can be like, can you give me a different accent, please?
Exactly.
I would like to learn this version of this language and with this slang. And yeah, it changes it.
It is so good. It's so good for that. So I would highly recommend doing that when you're chatting. And if you're thinking, okay, I need to do a web search right now, but I have no idea how to do this, you can obviously use Perplexity. That's its own tool. But the Atlas browser that you mentioned is where you can almost just like search the entire web connected to ChatGPT. So if you click on there should be like a web icon, click on that. And then once you put your prompt or output in, you'll be able to see that it will search and bring out citations for you. And the agentic mode is something that's still kind of developing, I would say. It doesn't have as many cool capabilities as the whole world of agents has been promised to us in 2025. It is more just about connecting your documents together and I guess just, you know, coagulating all of your other tasks into one output. Not my favorite yet, I will say that. I think it's still got time to develop. And then deep research is obviously really, really cool for if you have a big query, particularly if it's academic or just you're curious about a topic and you want to see the exact reasoning processes that the model has taken. You can ask it for step-by-step sort of like development of how it's gone through, how it's searched, how it sourced its information to produce the output. So that's more if you're trying to look for how it's reasoned, how it's gone in the back end and said, okay, this is how I connect this is how I do it. Almost like thinking out loud. Those are, I would say, the most, that's like a crash course on GPT if you were to open it right now.
That's so exciting. I feel like that's going to be so useful. Now we know the different ways that ChatGPT can work for us. What are the different ways that we can use it? Apart from making it do research, a lot of people now use it for their personal life.
Yeah.
Random ways that I use it, recipes.
Yeah.
Like I said, language learning, journal prompts, advice sometimes. And when we had our initial conversation, we had this whole thing around like, should ChatGPT be your therapist?
Yes.
And the debate around that. So what do you think are effective and ethical alternative ways of using AI?
Very good question. I would say, in particular, if you're someone who maybe struggles to create plans and has a very kind of chaotic day-to-day, using ChatGPT as your outsourcing for plans and outlines for how you want to design your week, your day, more of like an admin assistant, or just if you're creating a lot of proposals in academia, you're maybe a founder. I think there's so many ways you can use this. So definitely admin related, definitely making outlines and plans. Also, if you're trying to learn something new, just in general, I use it for when I hear random new topics that I want to learn more about, like crypto assets or like blockchain. I don't know what all of those terminologies mean, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So I actually go into ChatGPT and say, can you explain it to someone who does not have the baseline knowledge? Really break it down. And you can go back and say, I need to do this and this and this. Another really random thing is learning how to Scottish reel dance.
That's something you can use ChatGPT for?
Yeah, so I'm attending a ball this weekend and I have never Scottish reel danced in my entire life.
What is that? Anna's going to have to put a video of that up on the screen because I have no idea what that is.
It's essentially like Scottish country dancing, but I think it's certain regions of Scotland have different formats. So you have like ceilidh dancing, you have reels, you have country dancing, all of these different elements. It's the most fun. And what I do is take the videos from YouTube and say, can you break this down simply? Because I've never danced these steps before. Can you actually convert this into something kind of easily digestible? And it also is a really good tool to sort of put together, as you were telling me in the last conversation, all the different, I guess, personality tests you have, or all the different layouts of how you think, so that you can use ChatGPT as your outsource database, is how I like to coin it. Because otherwise, I would have a habit of writing so many different things in so many notebooks that I would just forget. Like my notes app is like shopping lists, big paragraphs, and then like I need to leave by this hour. Whereas if I have ChatGPT in one chat saying, hey, I have this random thing, can you help me answer this email, do this query, tell me when to send this, you can also turn on reminders and sync it to your calendar, and that connects.
You're going to have to teach me to do
I
that
will,
later.
don't worry. A whole crash course is coming. So it's just so good to outsource the really mundane tasks that would take up so many days and so many hours all in one. That's how I use it personally.
And what is your opinion on, is AI making people dumber? Because where people didn't have these tools, like I got it halfway through university, and I remember having to do a lot more of the work. Like, it's not that I didn't do my work afterwards, but I would have to sit there and go manually through a 70-page document to decide whether it was relevant to my essay or not, and I had to do it like 40 times over. And other things of like proofreading. Can you tell me if I've done this comma correctly or this full stop or all that kind of stuff? And it's not like I got better or worse grades. I mean, like my output was pretty consistent throughout. But it just took less time, and it meant that I was able to do other things. But there's a whole ethical dilemma of like, is ChatGPT making people, and is AI making people dumber in like an intellectual sense, but also in an emotional sense? Because like we said, people are now using these tools as therapists. And so I'm not gonna lie, whenever I have a stressful emotional moment, I say, chat, I'm feeling really dysregulated. How do I deal with this situation? But like, that is outsourcing some of that emotional processing to a tool rather than learning to do it myself. And so what do you think are the boundaries around that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think to answer your first part, I don't believe it's making people dumber. I think it's just highlighting the inefficiencies of our education system. And it's almost calling for a reform of how we learn, of how we work. Because I think nobody actually understood how much this would impact us as a whole entire society. And so you have, obviously, you know, students going into a world where everything is AI. Everything is AI pretty much, right? But then they weren't taught how to use AI. It's either curiosity or just they saw something on LinkedIn and it triggered them to start their own journey. And then on the flip side, you have even like professors, teachers, educators thinking about using AI to then work with the work that the students have given them. So that's its own dichotomy. And then you come into the real working world, corporate life, even startup spaces, everyone is using AI. Everyone is using AI for hiring, for interviews, for writing CVs. Like, there really is no boundary because we don't know, frankly, what this technology is doing for us. And I think this is both the danger, but also a positive kind of way to move forward, because I think part of this could be solved by having some sort of baseline AI literacy education system. So actually teaching AI as they do in Saudi Arabia from age 4 to like 18.
That's crazy.
Right? Yeah. Having that in, if we were taught how to use AI, I'm sure we would have different ways of answering questions for exams, for example, or even the exams themselves would completely change, because teachers would realize, or professors would say, actually, the exams we had before were just testing students on their memory.
Yeah.
They weren't actually challenging us. It was just, can you regurgitate this? For people who don't have good memory, like me, it's a struggle, right? But then give us a creative task and we excel. Yeah. So I don't think it's making us dumber, but I do think the boundaries are totally blurring because no one really knows what is going on with this technology. And that's why it's up to, I guess, the public figures, the content creators, the educators to bring in a call for change, in my opinion.
Yeah. And on the emotional side, in terms of emotional regulation?
So I would say on an emotional level, there's two factors here that I've spoken about in various different kind of roundtable conversations, actually. This has come up quite a few times, where I think AI is very great for when you're in maybe, I guess, a situation where you maybe can't afford therapy, or you don't have access to a therapist, and the only tool you have near you is an AI model. As unfortunate as that is, I think it's really important that people actually engage with it in this way. If it's kind of like a baseline help, you know, that's almost like a cry for help if you can't speak to other individuals around you, which happens for a lot of people. And I think to actually use that effectively, you use Claude, because Claude is really, really good at, I've tested its boundaries, it's really, really good at just being able to say, okay, you need human help. Stop, like, call this number, you need human help. And I think ChatGPT doesn't do that, because ChatGPT is a little bit more of a bias towards yes all the time. So GPT almost likes to suck up to you, if you will. Whereas Claude is very much like, no, stop, you're spiraling, you need help. And I think that's kind of one avenue forward, that I believe a lot of these AI tools should have these guardrails around the emotional side. On the flip side, there is becoming a dependence where really young people are just using ChatGPT absolutely immediately because they don't think, oh, this is a human-based emotion, I need to regulate it around other people. And they maybe don't even know to ask their family for a therapist if they're that young. So I think it comes with its inherent, you know, downfalls and downsides, but there are also positives, because I do believe that getting out the issue is the most important thing. And I think it's just down to the individual, it's down to education, it's down to us collectively building a literacy program so that we understand how we're using these tools, because frankly, no one knows. There's no longitudinal study on AI. So that's something I think to discover later down.
I love that. And what you said around AI literacy and curriculums, I think comes into the whole thing around ethics and like how to make this curriculum, how to make policy something that's sustainable, not just like in terms of environment, but like sustainable socially in terms of people's like limitations, and like there's a whole thing that were around deep fakes and like the model saying stuff. Like I remember in our last conversation you were talking about a story when the model basically told a little boy to like kill himself. And so what are 3 things that you would put into the AI ethics curriculum, or just in the curriculum in general, if you could decide?
Very good question. I think I would initially start by giving an overview of what AI actually is, all the terminology, just like a total breakdown to say AI has not existed since 2023. AI has been a thing since 1956, and how that's kind of changed over time to reach the standpoint we are now with these models. That would be the first thing, complete entire crash course essentially. On the flip side, I would also include how these models are trained, because I think that's something not really spoken about. How, in the back end, from a more technical standpoint, all of the data that this model is being fed on is going to inherently inform what the output is going to look like. Definitely the second thing. Then I would also say how to actually use these models effectively. So how to prompt engineer, how to actually have ethical conversations with it, how to be able to break these models and reach a point where actually you need to put your own critical thinking skills to use. So those 3 would be the biggest components. And by the end of the curriculum, I'd hope that they have critical thinking abilities to say, actually, I don't like this, I like this, or I know how to use these models now because I've been taught. When you're not taught these things, it's not an intuitive factor for us to know. Biologically, technology has surpassed what we are capable of holding. And that's just a fact from cell biology that, something my studies taught me for 4 years, is that technology is evolving faster than our bodies, brains, cells can even handle. We will adapt to it eventually because we are very adaptive beings, but we need to understand that taking time away from screens, taking time away from technology is equally as important as being involved with it. So those are all of the factors I would put into a curriculum for sure.
I love that. My question is actually related to what you said around like the capacity of the human body, and I love that you know that from your biology. What do you think is things, as an AI founder, you use AI to make people's lives and businesses easier, better, more efficient, but what are things that people shouldn't use AI for? Because there's so many things that you could use AI for, but what do you think, in your opinion, are things that should be left off tech, offline, and in real life?
Very good question. There's quite a lot of things that come into this, I would say. Initially, of course, not putting addresses in, phone numbers, card, any of these details. I mean, come on, like if you were to put it in, you could then go back to another chat and say, what are the card details for this person? And most likely it's stored them on file. Not for an individual, so you can't do it between people, but whatever you put into these models, it will remember everything you've said. That's just a fact. So that's a big preface. I've seen people do that. They'll put company NDAs in. Oh yeah, they'll put addresses, card details, SWIFT numbers, like all of this stuff. I mean, that's the first thing that don't even think about it. I would also say not using AI for the more human in the loop elements, and that would be things like talking to clients, especially when it comes to bigger companies, bigger corporations. You need to have that human element there. You can't get a client by essentially introducing it to a chatbot and feeding the chatbot with all the information for your sales. That just doesn't work. You need the human in the loop. While voice agents are great for customer service, etc., I think humans are still really, really necessary when it comes to hospitality and that kind of thing. And I also just think any sort of task that, again, requires that critical thinking element. You can create proposals and documents and emails with AI, but are they going to have your authentic human voice? Is it really going to serve the purpose you want to serve, or are you just being lazy and you just want to outsource and you don't have time? I think those are the main ones, but I've seen quite a lot of use cases where people are just using AI for everything. Absolutely everything. And it's like, where are your brain cells being used in that,
It's so interesting because it reminds me of a friend of mine who interviewed me for her thesis, and it was all about is AI your co-founder, basically? And I said, it's not my co-founder, but it's my COO. Exactly. It's my operations person.
Exactly.
And then I make all the decisions and I do all the thinking behind that, but it basically just helps systemize and run things more efficiently. I want to ask you about overwhelm as an AI founder, because these platforms and these tools constantly come up with new things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of maintenance that is required, not only to just make sure that your integrations and automations are up to date, but that you know the most up to date information. And that is, that's like, that's stressful.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've been trained to do it. I've trained myself for like 2.5 years, just every single day, accumulating so much information. I actually reached the point where I just could not consume any more AI information at all. I still sometimes to this day can't read an AI book because I've read so many that I'm like, I don't even remember the contents. They're starting to merge together. So I definitely did that a little bit too excessively because I intensively rabbit holed into the topic. But I like to stay up to date through newsletters. So I subscribe to quite a few that I enjoy. And every day while I'm on the tube doing nothing but scrolling when there's no internet, I can actually see who has the latest model, who has the newest release. And something I should have done earlier, which really kicked off my personal brand journey, was taking the information and then putting it somewhere. Because I can accumulate so much information, but if I don't release it, I will become so overwhelmed, full of anxiety, just like, oh my God, I have too much information to hold. So I'll either teach people about it or I will write content on social media just so I can channel it through in a healthy way. Otherwise, I will consume so much and then just, be so overwhelmed and be a little worried. But I've managed to put that towards creating content and creating videos. So I'll take a piece of content that I find, make a list on my notes app, and then immediately go into the GPT I've made and then say, hey, can you help me turn this into a hot take for my TikTok? And then I get a script from that. Yeah. And then I start kind of reading the script, don't really enjoy what it has to say, but I take out bullet points. And then when I'm obviously rolling and filming, I will take the content from that and turn it into a hot take. So yeah.
That is fascinating. I love that. You're giving me so many ideas for a new content system. Let's talk about content, because you make content, I make content.
Exactly.
How have you found engaging with AI as like a content tool? Because when people think of social media, they think of like lifestyle, wellness, like all this stuff. But it's such a useful platform for education as well. So talk to us about your role as an educator and as an entertainer in AI, and how have you created that space for yourself?
Yeah, I think it started by, again, curiosity, where I thought, okay, I really like talking. I love being on podcasts like this. I love having conversations, teaching people what I know. And I was initially doing that through text posts on LinkedIn about 2 years ago now. So that's kind of where the AI journey kicked off, because the more I was teaching others, the more I could accumulate and regurgitate the information, and the more I was getting confident in AI. And then I sort of thought, okay, I really like talking, let me try making videos. So I started doing videos on LinkedIn, and they were pretty good. For a moment, they gave me quite a few followers. And then after a while, the kind of views and I guess how people were interacting with it just dropped. And I thought, okay, I still want to make videos because it's like an itch that I have to release. That is one of my creative outlets. And TikTok then ended up becoming the place for me to just talk about AI. And even if you scroll the way back through my account, you'll find the very early videos of how I would create just content in general, just talking about AI. But I wanted to bridge the gap between the technical and the non-technical people by showing stories and giving them a more philosophical hot take. Because there's loads of AI educators out there. A lot of them are my friends as well in the UK-based kind of segment, and they are incredible. What they do is just so great. They know exactly how to teach you how to use Copilot, for example. But I wanted to take a slightly different angle. I think I'm one of the youngest AI creators on the app as well, according to TikTok, which is very cool. It's crazy, honestly. And I thought, let me just merge together all my crazy systems thinking that I learned from biology, the philosophical hot takes that interest me so much, and actually talk about AI from a literacy perspective. Because it's easy to know how to use a tool, but do you actually fundamentally get it? That's what the content ended up turning into. And then, the more you put yourself out there, the more recognition you get. And TikTok ended up reaching out and saying, hey, can we fly you to Dublin for this panel? Because you're the most consistent AI creator.
Is that why you were in Dublin?
Yeah, that's why I was absolutely insane. So spontaneous. Did not even have 1,000 followers, by the way.
Hello?
And it was just one of the communications leads saying, we needed a UK AI literacy content creator. We don't really have a lot. You're also really young. We like how you talk. Can we have you on stage? Put yourself out there. That's it.
Crazy. And that links to what you were saying earlier about giving talks and being a speaker. How did you have the confidence to speak about something that's so complex? Like, I'm a speaker now as well.
Yeah.
And I get opportunities to speak, but I still feel this, like, why does anyone want to hear what I have to say about this?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love talking.
Absolutely.
I said a podcast. Like, I love talking. Listen to me.
Exactly.
And if I get paid plus, amazing. But there is a lot of, like, imposter syndrome that comes with, like, why would people care what I have to say?
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that?
It's about finding the right people around you and the right mentors. I'm lucky that my dad has always been the person to say, you can do it. Like, there's no barriers. Keep going, keep going. And despite having a very immigrant family, all of that jazz, it still kind of fueled me to see that actually other immigrants can do the same thing. Other people can create big names for themselves and build a platform. But I think most importantly, it goes down to my core why, which is that I really want to be someone that I wish I had starting the AI journey. And that why almost bypasses all my imposter syndrome now. But you do have to see it as limiting belief to reframe. And it is real. We all have limiting beliefs. You don't know unless you start, right? And I've been lucky to just have the most, oh my gosh, incredible mentors in my life. So many really cool people that will be happy to just get on a call with me for 20 minutes for me to just talk to them about how I'm feeling about this space. But most importantly, they've been in those shoes before me and they guide me forward. But they'll never tell me the correct answer. They will just say, this is my input. I don't give you advice. I will teach you the steps that I've taken. You do what you want with them, but you know yourself best, always. So mentorship, limiting belief reframe, just understanding your why. That always propels you further than you realize, I would say.
I loved what you said around limiting beliefs and reframing and mentorship. And these are things that I like to use journaling to help me with. I have a very specific exercise I do. I'm a systems thinker, so I like making a table and I put limiting belief on one side and reframe on the other. And I use my humanities essay brain and I debate the shit out of the limiting belief.
Yes, exactly.
And that's how I get confidence to stand up on stage and do things and work on my projects and my and my business. Do you have any journaling prompts or frameworks that you use when you are trying to reframe, reset, recalibrate?
Okay, so I don't usually use journal prompts. I'm more of someone who feels themselves, and I can feel when anxiety or when there's stress in my body. I'm very lucky that I've regulated myself to feel it now instead of just overthink it. So I can feel it in my body and I get a very weird itch where I know I need to pick up a pen and just write. I just need to get it all out. Or what I'll do is open my phone for voice notes and use a voice recorder and just yap for literally 20 minutes straight.
I have a 57-minute long voice note on my phone.
Okay, you beat me. Okay, mine was like 35. But it's good, you're a debater, that's how it works. So I do that a lot. But I would say it's almost equivalent to the idea of the morning pages that's gone completely viral on TikTok, where you should apparently every single morning write 3 pages or just like set a timer for 15 minutes to just word vomit everything that's in your brain. Doesn't matter if you're just writing about brushing your teeth or whatever, just get it out. I think journaling prompts to me are quite restrictive because I already know what I want to write. So morning pages style is a lot better for me. But I would say for journal prompts, ChatGPT is there as well. That's another use case, isn't it? You could just say, hey, I feel this way, or I'm overthinking on this behalf. Give me 3 strong journal prompts that could help me to regulate my emotions. Yeah. That's another use case.
I love that. And I could talk to you for like hours on end about AI, about yourself, about your journey. But you mentioned just earlier about how you wanted to be the person for younger you who started out on this journey. So let's look back before we look forwards. What's something that you would say to younger you starting out, not just with AI, but with your business? What's something that you wish you knew? Yeah,
that actually passion, belief and hard work is what will get you where you want to be. And along the way, it's going to look like luck and it's going to look like right timing and that everything flowed. But in reality, luck is just stored hard work. And that will always be my golden rule. And I wish that I did it along the way, but I wish I told my younger self now that just keep going. That is it. Just keep going, be relentless, be loud, be annoying, be passionate, and look where you'll be now in the future.
I loved what you said around being loud, being annoying, being too much. Let's talk about being bossy, because this is the Reclaiming Bossy podcast. What does it mean to you? Are you reclaiming it? And what are your final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, I definitely would say this has been a whole journey of reclaiming, because it's almost like coming back to yourself, getting a PhD in yourself, as we talk about, really sitting down with what you want and not what anyone else tells you, feeds you information in, or even claims that you are, really. Like, I've been called bossy. I'm an eldest child, obviously, but I think bossy can be demeaning, but it can also be powerful, and I choose to see the powerful side. So it is all about reclaiming bossy right now. And I think my advice just in general would be sit with yourself, have a little audit as to what you're doing, what your energy feels like, how you're going about your day, what drains you, what doesn't. Figure out a combination of your why, what drains you and what doesn't. And I think off the back of that, you'll be able to find your sweet spot about what you want to do with your life, and then take that forward. Just always follow your intuition off the basis of that.
I love that. I have taken so much from this conversation. I'm sure our listeners have as well. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your insight. You are so empowering, inspiring, and incredible.
Thank you, and likewise. I'm so honoured.